One day you're on top of the world, you're Tini Howard, you're writing X-Men events, you're writing Batman events. Then the next thing you know, you're writing scripts for a Marvel-themed fitness app. That appears to be the career trajectory for Tini Howard as of this week, although I will admit the Batman event is ongoing, so it's not like she's been completely kicked out of comic books altogether, but I must admit, Marvel Move certainly feels more Tini Howard speed. She doesn't actually have to deliver good stories. She doesn't have to deliver good scripts to artists or whatever. She can just come up with whatever cockamamie thing comes into her head, put it into a fitness app, and people can run around with it. It doesn't feel like exactly career progression, at least if you're on an upward trajectory. It feels like regression, as in she's finally regressing to probably her best station in life. At this point, there are very few comic book readers, reviewers, probably anybody within comic books that's on the outside of Marvel or DC that wants to read another Tini Howard scripted comic book. So hopefully this does portend future endeavors for Tini Howard outside of Marvel or DC comics, maybe doing indie stuff, maybe doing some Dungeons and Dragons stuff, maybe doing a little LARPing, and maybe scripting things for fitness apps. What am I talking about? Let's get into that. Sixth to start, the co-creator of wildly popular fitness app Zombies Run has just announced the global availability of Marvel Move, a brand new interactive mobile fitness experience created in collaboration with Marvel. Marvel Move is available now, featuring Marvel Comics characters like Thor and Loki, the X-Men, Hulk, and Doctor Strange. Marvel Move makes the runner the main character, while the supporting cast guides them through the thrilling adventures and challenges. It is a uniquely immersive storyline-led fitness experience that makes running, jogging, or walking inside or outside, on a treadmill or in a wheelchair, highly effective, rewarding, and entertaining. And some of you are out there thinking, Wes, why are you dogging a fitness app? Don't you think people should be in better shape? Of course I think people should be in better shape. Everyone should be getting out more, doing more jogging, more exercise, do some push-ups, some sit-ups. If you can do a pull-up or two, I think that's great as well. Hell, I need to be in better shape. I'll admit that since I retired from the military. I'm not quite as in shape as I used to be, and I'm certainly not making fun of the app itself or the merits of having a fitness app, I guess, with Marvel characters. If it worked out with zombies, I imagine it's going to work out with Wolverine. But I am reveling in the idea that Tini Howard finally has fallen down to a station that probably warrants her artistic abilities, her creative abilities. I imagine, just an idea, and I'll get into this more when we talk about the other creators associated with this, that you don't have to be the world's greatest storyteller to write an interactive jogging story. You know what I mean? Probably not quite as in-depth or intense. Like the creative collaborative process probably just isn't as widely scoped as writing a comic book that has to fit into an entire line of other comic books and actually has to have quality to where people want to come back because there's so much competition out there. To my knowledge, this is the only superhero jogging app, and I think that's great. And I do have a review of this. I found a review of the product, which we'll talk about here at the end. But it's also awesome that Tini Howard can't get enough work where she's having to write scripts for people that are like jogging on the treadmill. Well, congratulations. Me personally, I listen to a podcast, normally like a historical podcast on something I would like to know more about. And that definitely gets me in the zone for trading and all that stuff. And if you need to get into the zone by listening to really bad stories about X-Men characters from the worst writer in X-Men history, I say do your thing, champ, as long as we're all getting in shape. But I do get to have a laugh or two about Tini Howard hitting rock bottom here. With regular new workouts and ongoing storylines, users of all abilities can choose to walk, jog, or run through immersive, interactive audio narratives that will fully transport runners into the Marvel Universe. In these narratives, you, the runner, are the main character, and supporting characters help you meet fitness goals amid a selection of epic adventures. The app features writers like Tini Howard, Kim Richards, Bilal Darty, Matt Witeska, and Alex Axe. And when you hear the writers, you're like, I ain't never heard of any of these people because none of them are comic book writers but Tini Howard. It's the Marvel Comics universe. They got a comic book writer. They're like, you know who we could spare right now? Tini's not really working on anything. We've canceled all of her books in the X-Men universe. But we'd like to keep her in the X-Men slack. Can we get her on the X-Men fitness app? Can we get Tini writing interactive fitness stories? That way she can stay in and be part of the team, but she's not ruining the comic books anymore. I think that's absolutely hilarious. I did do a brief cursory search of the other authors here, the other people writing the adventures, to see what kind of company Tini Howard is keeping here. And it's not good. Kim Richards, I believe, is a Chinese-American professional Dungeons and Dragons player. From what I ascertained, although I did not look into it very deeply, I believe Kim Richards writes Dungeons and Dragons adventures, and you can purchase them and then you can play her storyline or something like that. Bilal Darty, I believe, is just a script writer for the company itself. I guess they do other fitness apps like Zombie Run, which apparently was an international success, was very lucrative, and they decided to get the Marvel license. So he actually just works for the company. He doesn't really write anything else that I can see. Matt Witeska, I believe, is an exec for the company that also does some writing. And then Alex Axe, I believe, is the only other really professional writer with published work. I believe they are transgender fantasy writer. I saw they had written a couple of World of Warcraft novels or something like that. But it's not exactly outstanding company that Tini Howard is keeping right here. At one point, she was writing with Jonathan Hickman and Brian Hill. And even Jerry Duggan, which would be a step up over these people. Over at DC Comics, she replaced Ram V on Catwoman. She replaced James Tynan's girlfriend on Punchline. She's doing a big Batman event with Chip Zdarsky, who in theory could be, I guess, a big name if he could ever get out of his own way. And that's pretty decent company to keep. At least those people have some ideas that people like for the most part. And now it's your peers are professional Dungeons and Dragons players. Not that I'm saying anything bad about that, but it feels like a step down for somebody that was writing an enormous X-Men event, co-writing it with fucking Jonathan Hickman, and is right now co-writing a fucking Batman event, which in theory, if it was good, it's not. Spoilers if you haven't seen that. If it was good, it could potentially be a movie or something like that. I don't imagine there's any future to where this Marvel move X-Men story is going anywhere. But hey, do your thing, get your hustle on out there, make your money where you can. But I think it's time for Tini Howard to read the tea leaves and move on, because there just aren't any Tini Howard fans when it comes to comic books. Maybe there are Tini Howard fans when it comes to jogging or walking. X-Men Age of Orcus, written by Tini Howard. Discover your mutant identity as you're welcome to the mutant haven of Krakoa. You'll be recruited to work alongside the X-Men to counter a rising threat to mutant kind. Written by Tini Howard. This is a classic globe-trotting X-Men style adventure alongside Wolverine, Storm, Jean Grey, and many more. If this is actually a classic X-Men style comic book story, this will be the first one that Tini Howard has ever written. That's the worst part about it. They went out there and scraped the very bottom barrel of X-Men writers in modern times. Who's worse than Tini Howard? I don't think Tini's even a better writer than Vita Ayala, because at least Vita Ayala has written one good story in her life. It was in Wonder Woman 80th anniversary, I believe it was. I mean, it was only 8 pages, but it was a good story. I mean, likely a rehash of a better story that was told in a much longer format. It was just kind of truncated, but still, it was 8 pages of actual readable comic book, which is more than Tini's ever done. The only regular X-Men comic writer I can think of that's worse than Tini probably is Steve Fox. And you've never heard of that guy either, so it's not exactly a ringing endorsement. The only other writer that's been on X-Men lately that's worse, I guess, is Charlie Jane Anders, but I don't consider that person a comic book writer anyway. So it was probably a smart move to just remove Tini from the mainline X-Men comic books, get her into the Marvel Move app. You can write the ongoing fitness adventures in Krakoa for the app. You can stay in the Slack chat until Tom Brevoort shows up. Standards return to the X-Men office, and then you have to be on your way. But you don't actually have to infest the comic books as well. I think it's probably a happy medium, and this is the peer group that she probably belongs in. People that have no name in comic books because they aren't comic book writers either. Now, I did mention there is a review of this, and it is a pretty strong review. From what I can ascertain from the article, the guy is not a professional runner or anything. He's a very novice person, used to be into comic books, decided to check it out, see if he liked it. And this is what he had to say, just in case you're curious about this app and whether or not it's for you. Maybe you want to get out there. Maybe you want to go jog. Maybe you want to go hit the treadmill. Maybe you want to go do a walkabout like you're the X-Men Outback or something like that. This is what the review that I could find had to say. What I like most about Marvel Move is that it helped me rekindle some of that lost love I felt due to the lack of exciting movies in the MCU. There's a bit of a lull happening on that front, but thanks to the interactive nature of the app, I successfully re-immersed myself in the Marvel Universe. Should you try it, if you like comic books and need inspiration to start moving, definitely. You'll be plenty motivated by the stories and the virtual trophies. The customization options ensure you can adjust the intensity of your workouts as you get more confident moving around. So there you go. Somebody that's actually tried the app decided if you like comic books and you want some inspiration to get to go moving, maybe this is the app for you. But I hope that this man doesn't rekindle his love for comic books and decide to return to Marvel comic books right now, because there are far more writers like Tini Howard right now than there are writers like a Brian Hill right now. Way too much bottom of the barrel talent that is infested Marvel Comics as a whole, and there really just aren't very many good comic book series going on at the moment, so hopefully he gets his Marvel fix only from the app itself, does not try to sample the wares over at Marvel Comics, or he is headed for a disappointment, and he will likely never want to run again, especially using the Marvel Move app. But if you are interested in it, definitely check it out. There was like a big deal, but I think that's over now that it's launched globally. I think it's like $75 a year, something like that. If you're interested, go check it out. And it says this is the first classic X-Men style story that Tini Howard has ever written in her career. Now, if you don't believe me that Tini Howard is a terrible writer, she's currently ruining Chip Zdarsky and his entire reputation with Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War. It actually kicked off a couple of weeks ago. I reviewed it here on the channel, and you can absolutely see which pages are Tini Howard if you'd like an example of just how bad it can get when she writes a comic book. And it gets very, very bad. One of the worst stories I've read in a very long time. There's also a link in the video description.